Thank you. And Chair Powell, it looks as if Senator Britt and I are the last people standing at this committee hearing. Thank you for passing on the gavel to Senator Lummis. And I want to thank you for your service and for our recent conversation. And before I get into my questions, I would just like to note there's been a good back and forth amongst our committee around some of the big economic challenges and opportunities that we face in this country. And I would just like to note that the programs and the spending that the ranking member and some of our colleagues have blamed for inflation provided critical relief that kept working families and small businesses afloat during a global pandemic. And in fact, many of these policies were passed on a bipartisan basis and signed into law by both Republican and Democratic presidents. And I also just want to add that the laws that the Democrats passed to lower prescription drug costs and healthcare costs and to lower energy costs for Americans are helping to lower basic costs for families, all of which, by the way, was fully paid for. So I return, Mr. Chair, to what you have said to me privately and to all of us publicly, which is what we ought to be looking for is striving for bipartisan solutions to find a path forward. And in fact, Senator Lummis and I were just talking about this yesterday when it came to housing policy. So just want to put that out there. When you and I spoke yesterday briefly, we talked about the Community Reinvestment Act, and I know that I appreciated the chair raising this point earlier in the hearing. But I want to just return to that briefly. I am very glad to see, it's been about a year since the Fed and the OCC and the FDIC issued their proposed rule to modernize implementation of the Community Reinvestment Act. I don't think that the proposal was perfect by any means, but it does make really important improvements to how, through the CRA, financial services organizations can serve and meet the needs of communities that are full of assets but lack the resources to make it happen like wealthy communities can. So I think, Chair Powell, you indicated that you expect this new CRA rule to be finalized in the coming months. Is that what you indicated?
Yes, that's right.
And can you just tell us, with the departure of Dr. Brainerd, who will be spearheading the CRA efforts?
So I've asked Vice Chair Barr to be responsible for moving the project forward. Of course, it has to go to the whole board,
right?
And everyone gets a vote on that. But he'll be pushing it forward.
That's great. Thank you. I was glad to see that disaster preparedness and climate resiliency were added to the definition of community development activities that would be eligible for the CRA credit. And this is important, of course, because low and moderate income folks and the communities that they live in often face some of the worst impacts of climate change and extreme weather events. This isn't social engineering. This is dealing with the actual costs and challenges that people experience because of climate change. So, Chair Powell, can you talk to us a little bit about how you see that change and how it fits with the CRA's overarching objectives?
So I think it fits for the reasons that you said. Honestly, I'm a week or so away from getting a briefing on where the proposal lies, so I'm reluctant to touch on. I mean, I'd rather wait till after I'm fully briefed on where that agreement came out after the FOMC meeting. So.
Thank you. That's fine. I'll look forward to continuing this conversation with you and with Mr. Barr, and just appreciate this. I think, my view of this is that climate change and the economy are inextricably linked, and the reality is that climate-related action or inaction has a direct financial impact on people and our economy. I was wondering if you would just be willing to update us briefly on some of the next steps that the Fed is going to be looking at as you evaluate the resilience of financial institutions with respect to climate risk. There's this pilot project that just was started in January, I think it was, of this year, and I'm curious to know how you see next steps there.
So we're doing really two things. One is we are doing a climate stress scenario,
yep,
which the banks are already doing, the large banks, the 6 that we're working with, and that's really just to begin the process of understanding the risks that are associated with this over the longer term. They're already doing it, and it's something that there's a lot of learning going on around the world, actually. The other thing we're doing is providing guidance. The banks want clear guidance. They actually want one set of rules globally. The big banks that do business around the world, they're hoping that they aren't in a world where there's just different regulatory regimes everywhere they go. So we're kind of working on that as well.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.